Four people from St. Paul, Minnesota, charged in fraud scheme tied to sex trafficking ring. What in the world is happening in Minnesota? Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. Man, I don't know if you've been paying any attention to the news, but there is quite a bit going on in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. St. Paul, Minneapolis. When you first conjure and think about Minnesota, you think about snow, you think about cold, you think about the Minnesota Vikings, you think about the basketball team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, you think about people like Kevin Garnett that spent the majority of his basketball career there, you think about Prince, of course, and the Revolution, the Time, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So there was a big movement in the 70s and 80s with that Minneapolis sound. So you conjure up actually good thoughts. I've been to Minnesota, been to Minneapolis a couple of times. Nice place. You think about Bob Dylan back in the 60s and 70s. But here lately, there has been all kinds of chaos and disruption going on in the state of Minnesota. Starting with the governor, Tim Walz, who was running as the vice presidential mate with Kamala Harris, and some of the wild and outlandish things that he said on the Democratic ticket made you wonder if he had any sense. Then you have this large influxion of immigrants, Ethiopia, from Africa, that are in Minnesota. Minnesota is actually a melting pot place. Lots of Africans, lots of French people that come in from Canada. It is definitely a melting pot city, very liberal. But there has been some criminality going on like crazy. And I want to get into a story that is kind of unique. It's tied into a couple of businesses and a couple of themes in this story, and I think you will find this interesting. Of course, it's diabolical and it's unfortunate the way human beings are treating each other in the high level of inhumanity today and godless temperament that we have. It is ruining our society every second, every moment of each day. So listen to this scheme. Prosecutors in Minnesota allege a sex trafficking operation was financially intertwined with a Medicaid fraud scheme. The group ran four businesses: Riva Health Autism Center, Helpful Housing, and Home Felt Assisted Living, which submitted a total of $4,650,000 in claims to Medicaid from May 2023 to February 2026. Investigators say co-conspirators ran fraudulent Medicaid service providers on the side and promised kickbacks to trafficking victims who handed over enrollee information, using victims' identities as fake employees or clients. Here again, when you hear about these schemes take some real thinking and some thought process to it. Man, if many of these people could redirect that negative energy into something positive, who knows where we would be as a society, and maybe we wouldn't have all of our jails and prisons so full. So the five people that are charged, you got Frank Reeves, 57. He allegedly ran and led the trafficking operation. You got Andrea Sampson. Now listen to this. She was a former assistant Anoka County attorney, employed there from 2017 to 2026. She is accused of purchasing two commercial sex houses, one of which was converted into an assisted living home that billed Medicaid for over $500,000. She was reportedly romantically involved with Frank Reeves, who ran the trafficking deal, and had once worked herself as a sex worker for Frank Reeves. How complicated and ridiculous does this sound? Then you have Victoria Como Nash, who is 30, and Catherine Thomes, who ran websites for the operation. Coleman Nash, Reeves, and Sampson and Tomes are each charged with 26 felony counts. 26 felony counts related to promoting and profiting from prostitution, or P. The word P. And then you have Salman Ahmed Elmi, 30 years old, of St. Paul. He's charged separately, facing 3 counts of aiding and abetting theft by swindle and 5 counts of aiding and abetting theft by false representation. He owned Riva Health and previously received, listen to this, here's the hypocrisy and the dichotomy again. This guy, Salman Elmi, he owned Riva Health and previously received in Minnesota the Outstanding Refugee Award. There are tons of refugees in Minnesota, state of Minnesota, St. Paul, Minneapolis. As I said, coming in from Canada, you have folks from Africa, from China. Minnesota is definitely a melting pot state, and Minneapolis, St. Paul are definitely melting pot cities. So this guy won the Outstanding Refugee Award. I guess the state of Minnesota wished that they could take that award back. He won that for his entrepreneurship from the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Think about it. Look at the hypocrisy there. He won that award from the Minnesota Department of Human Services, and the kind of human services that he was involved with allegedly had to deal with Medicaid fraud and trafficking of human beings. And he gets the Department of Human Services Outstanding Refugee Award. Really? I guess they don't vet these people very well for these awards. He allegedly used partial ownership of a Minneapolis startup called Tavalo to service a loan to launch Riva Health. So what did the victims say? At least 13 women told investigators they were offered for commercial sex, with some recruited as young as 18 years old and forced to pay at least $100 per transaction back to this group. An advocate from Breaking Free, a Minnesota anti-trafficking group, called the case incredibly significant and indicative of what trafficking looks like as a whole. Not strangers on the street, but people in the community. I did not realize that this trafficking is child trafficking, sex trafficking, was happening at such an abundant rate. After the e-files have come out, and is happening in broad daylight as this story aligns itself. We have to keep our head on a swivel. Whether you live in a rich zip code or a poor zip code, whether you live in a rich state or poor state, things are happening. The demonic forces are running rapid around us. So just because you are in a rich suburb and you think you are away from the fray or away from the confusion and disorderliness, crime is not separated by race, creed, color, zip code, city, county, state, or region. It can happen anywhere. So we have to pay attention. We have to check on our family and friends, our neighbors, and make sure that everybody's doing okay. And we should be manifesting our truth in a positive manner. There's a lot going on in this trafficking world, and it needs to end. Tell me what you think about this particular story straight out of St. Paul, Minnesota. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.